Welcome back to another exciting episode of Sparkcast. This is Sean.
Sammy Magnus.
Thomas.
I'm always forgetting to add some random Transformer title to the end of my name. Thank you, Sammy, for making me feel like a failure.
You're welcome. You get to feel how Starscream feels.
This is going to be a long episode, everyone, so get comfy. Who wants to summarize this episode?
Big Rock. There you go.
Big Rock?
Big Rock in Peru, and they have to go get its powers, and things go horribly wrong, and then there's Skyfire. Yay!
Woo. They go... But where did they go? Does everybody remember? Did that ingrain into your heads?
Peru.
To get a magical stone that apparently... Something on Earth is more powerful than anything that has ever been made on Cybertron, by the way.
The crystal just harnessing the energy that was shooting out under the ground perpetually.
Well, it said this crystal is 10 times the power of anything on Cybertron.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's the crystal itself or channeling the power of, the same green power that channeled the other first Skyfire episode. But anyway... We're going to get to our format first, Season 5, Generation 2, and Japanese differences.
He's more than meets the eye. He's a robot in disguise.
Before we begin, I need to mention one thing. In our last episode, SOS Dinobots, at that episode in the Japanese version is when the narrator starts constantly narrating and everything. I looked at just 1 minute scene, and Grimlock is heading towards Teletran 1 to destroy it. And we hear what sounds like, "Oh no! Grimlock is heading towards Teletran 1! Will the Autobots be able to stop this ferocious new creature?" And then he narrates 3 more times in that scene before they leave the Ark.
They just want to doubly make sure that everyone knows what's happening.
I mean, it starts narrating everything that's on the screen that's already happening as it's happening, or has already happened, and sometimes he does it twice. And I actually... watched the whole episode in Japanese, and in 18 minutes he narrates 12 times. 3 of those that were within a minute and a half. And I'm just like, it's really distracting. I guess they thought that when it was going to air in Japan, people would be lost and wouldn't understand what was going on. Also, in the Japanese version, the Dinobots actually make sound clip roars from old kaiju films.
That makes sense, though. Japan.
Apparently, there's a lot of people who don't like the Japanese version because of how over-narrated it is constantly from this point on.
They must be a fan of, I guess I already forget the name of the TV series with the claymation Optimus and the cube just constantly transitioning to scene after scene after scene.
And instead of a visual assault, this one is a verbal assault. I wanted to go over something here too. Fire on the Mountain. I'm starting to understand how different the animation errors were, and I discovered why. I've been watching the Rhino DVD episodes, and I know Thomas has too, because we both had the Dinobot rocks not vanishing when they just said, "Look what these powerful creatures can do," and then nothing happens.
No, that's my version too.
Okay, so
yeah.
When making the Transformers, the original Masters had many errors. They were sent back for corrections to become the Broadcast Masters. Now, the Broadcast Masters were too deteriorated and unusable for DVD in 2002, so Rhino DVDs used the original Broadcast Masters that before they were touched up. So that's what we've been watching, because the original ones that had slightly less errors are lost.
Huh. I mean, unless you go find VHS tapes.
I mean, I have the Shout DVDs now to watch, but I don't watch these till after this podcast episode because I don't want to start seeing so many different versions of things.
What's the deal with the Shout DVDs?
I know they're better because I think they made sure to put some stuff back, but it's not always exact, so it's like a third version.
Are they sourcing the same material, the broadcasts, or the original Masters?
I don't remember now. I have all the info with the Rhino DVDs, not the Shout DVDs.
Okay.
Oh, so you can still see, yeah, if you can suffer through Generation 2 episodes, you can compare the Rhino DVDs to see where all the errors were corrected when they were actually broadcast. If you want to subject yourself to the Generation 2 cube.
You think that's going to happen?
And sadly, the last thing is this episode is not on my Japanese DVD that collects seasons 1 and 2, so I couldn't watch it. That's because Skyfire was another company's toy, so they pushed this episode back to airing as one of the final episodes in Japan, so I assume it's on the Transformers 2010 DVD release in Japan, which I do not have, so I cannot check to see if it's there. Even though it's like a whole new cast of characters, it's just weird to include it on that set if that's the case.
Gotta put it somewhere, I guess.
It's just weird. It's like you finally finished watching season 3 with Rodimus, and all of a sudden, last 2 episodes is Skyfire.
You know, why not? Like, hey guys, I'm alive? Question mark.
Sarcasm not appreciated.
So, to the writer phase. Does anyone want to read to us our writer?
Sure, I'll do it. Douglas Booth was the writer for this episode, and he wrote 12 other Transformers episodes, starting with Roll For It, involving the antimatter energy, which introduced Chip Chase, and he was a story consultant on the animated movie. He's written all kinds of things for cartoons, starting with Yogi Space Race in 1978, to 80s shows like Godzilla, Spider-Man, He-Man, GoBots.
GoBots!
Why did you have to put this in here?
For Thomas!
Also,
Hey, Sammy, don't worry. I'm sure you can dive more into this text.
I hate you and I'm leaving this podcast. I hate my life. God. Unrelated to GoBots, he also did G.I. Joe, and up to the 90s shows like Super Mario Bros. 3, Mighty Max, Conan, Sonic, Street Sharks, Iron Man, and Spider-Man. He has tons of credits, though the most episodes for a single show he did was The Smurfs, where he wrote 36 of those episodes, which I love The Smurfs, and that makes me happy. And then he also did writing for Winx, in which he's written 26 of those episodes. If you watched cartoons in the 80s and 90s, you probably watched something he's written. He's also the associate producer for all of the G.I. Joe episodes and Robotix, and producer for the entire Conan the Adventurer 90s show. Later, he wrote many episodes for 2 Spanish cartoon shows and 3 German cartoon shows. Fortunately, their wiki and IMDb pages do not indicate any U.S. release or air dates, despite most of them having English language dubs. Actually, I think that's like all really neat, and I kind of like this guy despite the weirdness that happens in this episode. I kind of want to go back to the Smurfs and just be like, all right, I want to see if I can compare these writings and see if I can tell that it's his. I love the Smurfs. Sorry.
I want to know if he actually created Chip Chase for the episode, or if it was already a character that was created for the Bible. So,
good question.
Something to put on my Transformers bucket list interviews, you know.
Thomas, were you about to say something?
I was getting ready to run down the Smurfs.
Excuse me?
I was going to ask if this guy was a bad writer, because I remember just days after school, grandmother babysitting me, and there's nothing to watch except the Smurfs. And it was a painful 22 minutes. I've never watched it and thought, this is good, this is entertaining.
Let me tell you something about my childhood. So, when I moved to college, going through some stuff in the attic, my mom showed me my 1981-82 calendar, and it was, of course, all the Smurfs.
Yay!
And, of course, they had little stickers for baby's first word, baby's first steps, all stickered on there throughout my first year of existence.
That's adorable!
And eventually you threw it away because you knew you had attachment to it.
That's my mom's. I'm not going to take that. She wants to remember all that stuff about...
By both of you. Smurfs are great. Yeah, see, I haven't rewatched it. I only remember it from my childhood, so, like, oops.
Anyway, all I know is that it's got to be better than any of the live-action Smurfs that have come out.
Oh, yeah, no, screw those.
I feel like there was definitely advertisements for one of those Smurfs movies where they just kept saying, "Who let the Smurfs out?" I'm sure that was a thing.
Yeah, that was a live action, and I want to forget the live action.
Quick, talk about what you liked about this episode before our brains die from remembering that exists.
Me, Grimlock, no like you.
I like Skyfire.
I like that there was so much happening in this episode. It was jam-packed.
Agreed. There's so much stuff happening. And, like, none of it. It's a mess, but it's a good mess.
Yeah. I mean, I actually liked Skywarp making fun of Starscream, laughing at him for having guard duty.
Yes.
Every scene.
And I like how he tries to set Starscream up, and then he's like, traitor! And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're the one who's always the traitor. You should be helping him.
I like the part where Megatron was actually nice for 2 seconds to Starscream. Genuinely like, oh, that was a really good job of you, Star. And he's like, ah!
And what's sad is this is the only time Thundercracker acts this way, because I think it was originally supposed to be part of his character bio, I think, and this is like the only time he acts that way in the show.
Also, Thomas, you were about to say something, and I think I cut you off.
I was gonna say that, yeah, it just seemed, I guess building on what Sean was saying, is Thundercracker, it just seemed real out of character for him to be doing what he was doing. Because even later in the episode, he mocks Starscream and Megatron to their face.
Gets away with it.
Real geeky. Yeah, and then he just flies away. And they're just like,
bye!
I really like that aspect. I don't know if that would be a character that he should have had the whole time, but it was particularly interesting just to see it pop up out of the blue.
I have a question for you. What does the Sky Spy do? It doesn't, like, the Autobots have some kind of little satellite in space, and it doesn't detect Decepticons. It just looks down on the Earth and just starts looking at the Earth for Decepticons. Like,
Yep.
It's just gonna randomly start finding them. Their tech must be awful, because Laserbeak can just go, oh, I sense a satellite, and they can immediately destroy it.
My better question is, or my other question is that when did they get that?
Well, apparently
Why
they
did
don't
they
have it
suddenly
anymore.
have it? Well, okay, fair, but why did they suddenly have it just for like the 2 seconds of plot?
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it was already weird that it was immediately destroyed as soon as it was introduced. But yeah, why would they never use it this whole time? But then they decide to write it into an episode, but just, again, destroy it within 20 seconds.
Well, you know what happened is, last time there was an episode, they're like, man, the Decepticons are attacking. Let's grab the only 3 Autobots we have at the base because everyone's all out on patrol. And someone was just like, screw patrol, let's just make a satellite.
I mean, it makes sense. What doesn't
It
make
does.
sense is Laserbeak. I mean, if it's in space, I don't recall their Laserbeak having the capability to fly up to space and destroy low orbit objects.
Laserbeak is all powerful. He can do anything he wants.
Well, didn't they shoot at it with the giant purple steel gun? I don't
Is that
remember now.
what was it? Laserbeak?
I thought Laserbeak detected it, and then he used the cannon to shoot at it.
Oh yeah,
And that's
is
what damaged it,
No,
and then they
that's
had to go
true.
repair it.
Okay, so
That's true,
Laserbeak
because-
has super sensitive eyesight or something. That's one of his special abilities.
I wrote down for that segment, by the way, is just that's not how lasers work.
Actually, there was one thing I didn't like about this episode, and that's Skyfire. So,
Excuse me, Skyfire did his best.
okay, so
And when
here's
he
the
tried
reason.
hiding, it was the cutest thing.
Hold on. See, here's the thing. It's because of how they set up his character already. They already set him up as, like, not liking war in the last appearance, and he's like, is this what I'm gonna do with my life? You know, do war? And he seemed to be forced into it. But in this episode, there's none of that. He's just, oh, there's a battle. Let's go fight. He has none of the character development or character introspection that he had in his first appearance. He's just generic Autobot for the battle now.
I get
Yeah,
that.
but I mean,
he kind of seems like he's smart enough to know that he has to set aside those concerns. I mean, he just realizes the situation where the Decepticons are just trying to destroy the world, and he's one of the few that can stand up against them.
Well, maybe that's why he didn't fight. So he would just shuttled the 2 worthless Autobots to go fight the Decepticons by themselves, then came back and picked them up.
Were
That
those
was
new
the worst.
They sent Brawn and Windcharger to fight all the Decepticons.
Yeah, like just go off and fight Megatron. That's sane.
Yeah. Oh, and Brawn had a comm device to call for help, and I'd never seen it used before. And I was like, aha! This is why when Optimus is in the base, looking at pictures on a screen, this is where the pictures are coming from. Some other random Autobot is shoving it at the face of the other Autobot that's talking to him.
That
The
makes
one
sense.
other thing I don't get with this whole Braun Skyfire fairy thing, if they were spying on something in Peru, why did they go all the way to one of the North Poles? Well, not one of the Arctic poles, and pick up Skyfire instead of traveling straight down to Peru? I mean, it seems like they went to get him because they needed fast transport to get to Peru. Somehow flying to one of the poles is faster, and then they just went straight there with just two of the dumbest Autobots instead of picking up all of them like they eventually did.
They wanted the most action. They were like, nah, we got this. We don't need no Optimus Prime. We could just take all of them. We got Skyfire on our side.
How do you know Optimus wasn't just sending them off to die to delay them till the good Autobots could arrive? He's like,
No,
it's just
better-
it's just Brawn and Windcharger. Just send them on the front lines.
Send them on the front lines. Maybe they'll die and not come back.
Unfortunately, it wasn't Huffer or Gears, but, we'll make do.
It's not Cliff Jumper either.
Best thing that I didn't like about this episode was just the crux of this episode. The Decepticons we're only 9 episodes in, and they're already rehashing plans. They already did the giant mountain destroying laser gun plan, that Starscream build. He did another episode. There was another episode where he's done that, right? Or some kind of or something.
Well, he was testing the Energon on a small, but that was a small assault rifle that has a ton around a base or something.
But it blew
this is
up.
different. No, it did it?
Yeah.
It was a small mountain. This is a big mountain destroyer.
It's a more
Well,
advanced
failure of a
episode.
plan. It was a failure of a plan, but they saw something in it.
I also didn't like how Spike suddenly knows how to fix Cybertronians.
Yeah, I know they've established that Sparkplug can. Maybe he's been teaching Spike off screen, so there you go.
That's dumb, but okay.
Hey, you gotta invent these continuity tapes to stitch together so that there's no more continuity holes.
True.
I have something weird so there's a factory only a mile or two down the road from a village. Everyone from this factory would be dead or dead soon in real life because of all the chemicals. There's no way they could survive that close. And did you know this, that the villagers are all Peru citizens, but all the factory workers are white?
I didn't actually notice that.
So I'm like, this has got to be an American company trying to work unregulated, not caring about the villagers' health or the country that they're going into and polluting. I'm not joking, because steel production causes significant air pollution that damages the cardiovascular system, produces waste sludge, and contaminates villages' drinking water and kills them. So this has to be a new thing, or else that village would be a dead village. I don't understand why they're going to another country, though, to make steel. Are they trying to save money from the import tariffs since they're an American company?
They could. I feel like that's going into this a lot more than the writer did.
I feel like
maybe
it was
colorist.
back in the 80s where destruction of the rainforest was always a top thing, or a new thing. Not necessarily going to put mines, factories there, but just a whole lot of tree excavation and stuff like that.
I'm just reminded of when you said rainforest. So I don't usually bring this up, but switching to Transformers Armada, they go to a rainforest to look for the Minicon, and they pull out a thing to look through the trees better, and one of the humans is like, "No, don't kill that tree!" And they're so they gotta somehow move through a rainforest as giant robots without damaging a single tree.
Yep.
Which of course fails because the Decepticons just start blowing stuff up.
Like you do.
And they all start, of course they have that whole sad, what's happened to this forest? And I make fun of it, even though I am a huge believer in environmentalism. But it's just kind of funny in that context of the episode. But back to regular Transformers. So the Peru girl says she's worried about the temple, then shows up at the factory. I'm like, I thought you were going to go to the temple. Are you here doing the environmental activism because of the factory stuff I mentioned earlier? Is that why you're here? Because I feel like she had an off-screen adventure where she went to the temple, found the Decepticons near it, and then followed them to the factory, and that was either in the original script or something, and then they just dropped or what. Because she's there to warn the Autobots with no explanation, and she knows the Autobots are good. Even in Peru, I guess the rest of the world knows about the Transformers now.
I mean, red, white, and blue, they're good colors, right?
America's here, other country. We're here for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
Oh, Sammy already brought up my note about how Spike's not able to repair Skyfire. We had the same note. So anyway...
Well, right, that same scene, did you guys notice the crazy sequence of animation errors there?
Oh yeah, where they brought in Skywarp instead of
Yes.
and not only did that, it wasn't Skyfire colored as Skywarp. He was actually proportional to the size of Skywarp.
Exactly. So it was just so much in this sequence, because one, Skyfire's size was constantly changing throughout the whole episode. But then you get to this point where they're carrying him in on a stretcher of some sort, but then he's the same size as all the Flyers, basically. But then it's not actually him. They're carrying Skywarp. And then Thundercracker or one of those guys are standing next to Megatron. Then the scene changes for a second, and then whoever was standing next to Megatron transformed into Starscream. There was just so much going on. I was taking notes, but then something else just immediately happened.
Well,
I had to pause times.
All right, so we'll get to that in just 1 second. Does anybody have any last dislikes about this episode? I got one left.
I also have one left.
Okay.
Go ahead.
There's a line that Optimus says where he's like, "That's what separates the Autobots from the robot chickens," and I'm like, "Yeah, is that true, Optimus?" Anyways, I just thought there were a lot of just cute lines.
There was another line at the very beginning where I don't know if it was Windbreaker or Brawn, but there was a line about Steel Steelers. Then Starscream was like,
huh?
The cheesy line was Steel Steelers, it's fighting time. Starscream responds back, correction, Autobot, as far as you're concerned, it's losing time. And right after that, they have a fight. The building falls down on top of them, and then Starscream says, "That's what I call bringing down the house." There was just cheesy line after cheesy line.
And like,
it's so good though.
So like, it was so weird. Like their main goal was to get Steel to make a super weapon and charge that super weapon, a super weapon laser, and charge that super weapon with the gem they found in an ancient Peruvian cave. And then when they blow it up because they used too bad of a steel due to Starscream, they then happened to have a steel factory only a mile down the road in Peru. Yay, coincidence.
Just all those steel factories just hanging out.
So there were 2 times in this episode that Optimus acted like Megatron, which I wasn't down with. The first is he digs up Skyfire and uses him just like Megatron did. Okay. The second, he says, "Finish him off." I'm like, whoa, Optimus! Do you remember you're not a Decepticon? That is not what the Autobots say.
Look, he was just having a real bad day. His little cranky side gets out sometimes, and it's okay. We forgive him. He doesn't mean it.
So there was, I don't know, throughout these episodes, I'm just noticing random Autobots just having just bursts of bloodthirst. So I think it was Optimus' turn this episode, because there's the stuff that you guys just mentioned, but there were also 2 other sequences that I thought pretty great with Optimus. When they finally arrived at the factory, Optimus just rams right through the doors. There's a quick shot of Megatron's face as acting super surprised, and then Optimus rams right into him, throws him through the wall, and Megatron is just like completely out of it.
That was so awesome. I love that scene.
Yeah, I loved it. It was a great scene. Then later on in the episode, there's a sequence where Optimus runs up to the top of the pyramid, picks up Megatron over his head, and throws him off the side of the pyramid straight to the ground. It's just
so good.
Violence. Yeah, Optimus definitely had the bloodthirst this episode.
he's like, hey, you can make Ruckus in America, in the North Pole, wherever, but like you come down to Peru,
So any animation errors time?
Yeah, I got too distracted by the great lines that I actually didn't notice that many animation errors.
Oh.
Oops.
Okay, the ones that stood out is Trailbreaker turned into Windchanger's car form in the opening sequence. I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh yeah, I didn't notice that. I was still trying to figure out if those were new Autobots and what their names even were. So yeah, like Trailbreaker, Brawn, and Windcharger, I couldn't keep those straight.
I mean, this wasn't an animation error, but you could totally tell the factory workers are just repeated over and over again to save animation, right?
I mean, that makes sense. It's fine. Speaking about using the same clips though for animation with like small budgets, I learned I'm gonna bring back the Smurfs. This is slightly off topic, but it's just really funny because in the original Smurfs, there is just one cell of animation that is the same Smurf of just him screaming, and he is in the same pose in 22 episodes. Just there, you could see him right there. Like all that changes is the background, and I'm like, that's really, slightly lazy, but at the same time, I understand.
If it's between episodes, no kid's gonna notice.
I'm gonna guess Filmation was behind the Smurfs.
I mean, it was definitely not TMS. TMS episodes in any of the 80s shows, that you can tell that the animation stepped up its game.
So this isn't an animation error, but it's the way they animate it. Windcharger, his body actually changes from red to gray so that his body pattern will actually work with his arms. And so he's the only character I've seen where his paint changes when he transforms.
So you're saying this is a recurring thing, or did it only happen?
Yes, with Windcharger. It's so
wow.
Yeah, I haven't.
I'll have to check that out. That's really interesting.
Any other errors you spotted, Thomas?
Yeah, for this particular episode, the only thing that I caught was just this whole Skyfire, Skywarp, Thundercracker thing.
Yeah, that went on for a while. Enough to probably at least confuse some kids at that point.
Yeah.
They must be terminated.
Next, we're going to move on to deleted audio. So I actually had 3 instances of the audio that I thought was interesting.
Transform and attack!
I don't take orders from you, Starworm.
So be it! Who needs your pitiful help anyway?
There were others. Somebody called him. Oh, yes. There was another line where they were making fun of his name, Starscream's name. That seemed like it was just a thing that happened this episode. I think it was Skywarp still. He was calling, I guess after they had guard duty, Skywarp was mocking Starscream, and he called him Screamer instead of Starscream.
I find that more of a nickname rather than...
I thought it was funny that Starscream immediately starts acting like, a teenager again. Fine, I don't need your help.
I kind of find Screamer more of a nickname than it actually being insulting.
I don't know about that. The way that he said it, and then the bye right after that.
That's true. The bye is what's, yeah.
Because, when Starscream gets upset, he does a lot of weird screaming.
That's how he always sounds.
Yeah. So next is...
Never send in a camera to do the work of a steam shovel. He tripped my automatic transform mechanism. Get the picture?
I don't know. I just didn't know if it was cheesy or stupid or what, and they say, get the picture to him as a...
Laughing at the insult. It's not even an insult, actually. He says that about himself, and he seems very proud of being called a steam shovel.
At first, I thought it was just weird, like they were making fun of Reflector, and then that was it. It was cut for some reason.
I'm laughing at, why is there an automatic transform mechanism? How can you hit that? I have a lot of questions.
I don't know. Maybe they were trying to make him particularly distinct. Maybe there's some kind of automatic flash camera thing that was new. I don't know.
No, there's no purpose.
No.
There's no purpose to have this button.
We are doomed!
What?
It's just people like cheering, and then the next one is like, "We're doomed," and everyone's screaming for their life.
You know, that's a lot of wallow there. Okay.
I just thought that was funny, like how overacted that is. It's like, we are doomed.
And it went on for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, when is this ending?
But yeah, that's all. So next we have retcons. And of course, the first retcon I already mentioned is Skyfire's personality seeming to be different from the last time he has appeared. Like, and also how he was mourned in his last appearance, but now it's like, wait, we need an aircraft. Let's make sure he's not dead and then dig him up and hope he's alive.
You know, it's not like we couldn't have saved him when he was buried or anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you could save him now, you could have saved him back then, too.
I mean, that's only how he got saved in the first place, by being dug up. Anyway, it's on to Thomas's favorite part, Starscream's blunders and stupid moments.
Don't tell me what to do. I do what I want when I want.
It's been a while, but Starscream did something to help the Autobots again, making it now, I think it's 5 or 6 out of 10 episodes. Starscream doesn't listen to Thundercracker's advice, doesn't test the metal, and then lies about being able to get it to work, refusing to face facts, and then throws the blame on Thundercracker. Here's our leader.
He's a great leader. Those are all excellent traits of leading. It's determination and confidence.
Contrast that with Optimus last episode actually admitting he made a mistake and actually learning from his experience, which Starscream never learns anything from any of his experiences.
You can't say that. He actually learned from his previous experience. He made a better giant laser gun. It was actually so great that Megatron decided we should try that plan again. The only ingredient we were missing was a giant crystal.
No, they needed better steel. And had they had the good steel the first time, they would have had a much better advantage.
Yeah, but Starscream successfully made the episode longer.
Yeah. So Brawn turned to Trailbreaker and was like, "It's fighting time!" Only to turn and see Starscream and Thundercracker are already gone and no fighting happens. And also, we already mentioned this before, but how stupid was it just to send Windcharger and Brawn to fight all the Decepticons? And they fight Soundwave and Megatron.
Yeah. Top tier. Like, you guys are gonna die.
And the last thing is he says, "I'll switch their logic circuits and make them into a Decepticon." I was like, oh, okay. Why didn't you do that when Skyfire was just unconscious in front of you forever a few episodes ago? Then you wouldn't have to worry about him being all belligerent and everything.
Well, wasn't he a Decepticon temporarily? Maybe Megatron just didn't like him.
He's like, I don't really need this thing on my team. I already have Astro Train. Whatever.
Yeah.
Shoot, does he have Astro Train by now?
I don't know if he's a Season 2 add-on or not.
Whoops. Well, he almost has Astro Train.
And also, it's funny he says, "I'll make them into a Decepticon," but you'll find out later that in the past he had a mind control machine on Cybertron. Anyway, little continuity glitches. So does anybody have any fun, stupid moments for this episode?
No, I think all of my stuff was covered.
Sam?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, like the stupid buy thing still gets me, but yeah.
Hey, boys, we're gonna be movie stars!
It's time for the main character of the episode. We actually forgot to mention this in our last episode, but I thought that Wheeljack was the main character.
Agreed.
Since he created the Dinobots, then fought at the end, even though he didn't have a character arc. But I still thought he was the main character, even though it was about
I mean, he's the one.
Dinobots.
No, I mean he's the one who set the plot in motion.
Mm-hmm.
I'd agree with that.
So who do you think is the main character this episode? Brawn gets the most screen time out of all the Autobots. But then Starscream and Thundercracker also have a lot in here too.
I mean, personally, I'm gonna say Starscream. He has fantastic moments, and honestly, like a lot of his blunders work to move along the episode. So,
You know, I almost went with Brawn, I thought, while I was watching it, because not only does he fights Soundwave, he gets to shoot Megatron with his own gun against him, and then he even fights Starscream by running up past his guns and attacking him, but none of it matters, because all it took was Skyfire to come in, blow up the cannon, and peace out, and that's how the episode ends.
Yeah. See, I could also say Skyfire is the main character too.
Yeah, it's like poor Braun. He was about to get his only main character achievement, and he got it taken away.
Braun can get out of here.
Yeah, I don't really feel like this one had a main character. Like even
Starscream's the main character.
Starscream. That's what you think?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it does
Yeah, now
follow
it's 2
him.
against 1.
Yeah, it does actually follow from his point of view a lot. So yeah, it might be true. Might be the first Decepticon main character episode we got.
I'm down with it. All who agree with Starscream being the main character say aye.
I.
Awesome.
With also Thundercracker too, right?
He gets side. He gets second. He gets first supporting character.
He loses too many points with me for all his lip that he was giving Starscream.
But that's
He
what
didn't
was so
take the
fun.
money properly like a good flyer should.
None of these seekers. Wait, isn't at the end of the episode, doesn't Megatron or Starscream say like Thundercracker is still given lip, and they're just like, why does he have to make that such a thunderous noise? Or is that the next episode?
But I'm telling you, yes.
Yeah, it didn't make sense, but yeah.
I just want, that was a good line. Like, shut up, Thundercracker.
Yeah, I just liked him in this episode, and he did have a lot to do, so. But, okay, so.
Ah, those were the good old days back on Cybertron. Didn't have to sneak around in these ugly Earth disguises.
Megatron's energy. This time, I think this is the second time he's used something that was already created by... Oh, no, wait, no, that was by the Earth. This is actually a man-made, like, quote, crystal of power, unquote, that's colored exactly like the crystal shafts of the core episode. And here they actually have the same crystals. So I feel like the same core from the Ice episode with Skyfire was exactly where the crystal of power was getting its power from here, too. Did you guys understand that?
Yeah, we good.
Okay. I was making sure I wasn't, like, making myself confused. I'm making other people confused.
We're trying not to cut off each other.
Okay.
So that's the silence. Not at this exact point, because apparently neither of us have anything to say.
Okay.
Or
Well-
Thomas is dead.
No.
It's hard to say. I'm still questioning whether or not the crystal was the source of the power. And again, there's just a giant shaft of laser energy shooting out of the Earth.
The crystal absorbed
Being
the
a
power
superpower
that...
above.
I was saying that I thought the crystal was absorbing the power that was already in the Earth. The same power that was already being used by Megatron in the other Skyfire episode, where they're just draining energy from the core. Only this one was more like, I guess, concentrated, like by the ancients thousands of years ago. Yeah, so that, I guess.
I mean, yeah, the crystal just seemed like just some kind of conduit to me.
Yeah.
Just a way to concentrate and harness it.
Dark, excessive, time, liberty.
So I got some brief fun facts here for you. Oh my god, I should have used this earlier. There's a deleted audio of Megatron saying, "Finish him off." And Optimus already also says, "Finish him off." And the exact same line in this episode as well, which I mentioned earlier. They're acting even more like each other this time.
Who's the real villain now?
Probably the one not trying to kill people.
I mean, both of them are pretty murderous, so...
I mean, clearly it's not in Megatron's character. They had to delete it from the episode.
That'd be funny if they gave it to Optimus by mistake. The voice actor by mistake, and he just read the line, so that they're like, well, he recorded it. Guess it's there.
Honestly, they might have. There are a lot of, like, screw-ups like that, so... Yeah.
So any final thoughts about this episode before we go into the character spotlight?
So I actually really do enjoy this episode. A lot of this episode is why I watch Transformers, or like G1 at least, because of how absurd it is. Because there are so many things going on and nothing has to make sense, and it's just good fun. And I miss those kinds of shows.
It's kind of like the first Space Bridge episode where stuff just keeps happening and the plot keeps happening and fights keep happening, and then the episode's over because they won.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying?
To me, this was the first episode where I felt like I could say this was a good episode, that I thought it was like really, really entertaining. Yeah, the other episodes are just kind of just there, but this one I really liked just because there was so much going on. It was so absurd. Thundercracker, or was it Skywarp, with all his just mocking of Starscream. Starscream in episodes so much is doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and then just Optimus and the other Autobots just acting crazy. It was just so much going on in this episode. This is the kind of thing that I look for in, like, you know, older TV shows and stuff like that. Just, I don't know. I just thoroughly entertained the whole time.
Yeah, now there's not enough a-hole Thundercracker anymore, so I won't know what to do.
Yeah, I need more of that.
Yeah.
On to our character spotlight. You guys want to each grab a character? We're doing 2 this episode.
Ho ho. Yeah, I'll do Windcharger.
Okay.
So, he's gray. He's got a box sticking out of his upper chest. Turns into a sports car. Pretty simple. His quote is, "Quick action equals quick victory." I don't remember how he sounds like at all, but that's his voice now.
He never even really talks hardly at all in the whole series.
Cool, he'll just sound like this then.
Right.
So Windcharger is the fastest Autobot over short distances, because clearly he can't be faster than Blur. He's good in situations requiring fast, decisive action. Enthusiastic, but impatient. Short attention span. Casts powerful magnetic fields which can attract or repel large metal objects. Smashes them at closer distances. These abilities use up tremendous energy. Often burns himself out due to carelessness.
Imagine, like, meeting Blur a few years from now and going, "I am outdated."
Blur is so much better than the garbage Windcharger is.
That's assuming you even remember Windcharger even exists.
I mean,
Yeah,
also true.
I was just getting ready to say, there's nothing to me, like, I'm still confused as to whether or not this is his first appearance, and even after this episode where he was featured prominently, I still don't even know what his purpose is. Like, what is his specialty?
Magnetic, basically magnets, repair or attract things.
He didn't attract me. I'm so sorry.
So, guess how many pages on TF Wiki he has? Yeah? 1. Even Blue Streak had 2.
This poor robot.
Windcharger has never shown up in any form in any of the new incarnations of the comics, the cartoons, or live-action movies. Unless you count a Minicon from Transformers Energon that was also called Windcharger, but it might have just been a coincidence because everybody already forgot about him.
You mean to tell me his special power of being able to change his body color at will didn't make him stand out? He's not a fan favorite.
So, he was originally called Sprint, and possibly with the nickname of Jack Rabbit if he was there long enough for people to give him nicknames.
Oh, that would have been
God.
And he's the only Autobot to never use his powers in the 3-part pilot or get his name mentioned.
We didn't need him.
Oh yeah, he's in second place for least amount of toys at 10. Huffer has 6, so thank God at least he's beating Huffer.
That's pathetic.
But that's only checking on the character spotlights we've done so far. So.
Wait, I still function.
So, his fate after the movie, he was supposed to have died during the movie, his body placed near Wheeljack. When time-traveling Ravage showed Wheeljack his own death, he saw Windcharger's too, since his body was near him. Thus, Wheeljack built him 2 new bodies to choose from, but they were lost when the shuttle they were on vanished, and Windcharger died anyway. A statue and memorial of him is present at the new Autobot City. His presence there is more than reality. Ironically, a new toy that was supposed to be Windcharger during the Alternators line was later changed to Wheeljack, and they designed a new Wheeljack head specially for it. In the original movie script, he survived the initial Autobot City battle, but an earlier scene had Galvatron return to Autobot City before going to kill Starscream, and Cyclonus ripped Windcharger to pieces by flying through him. I assume.
No, that's my opinion.
Sorry, okay, cool. I was like,
I'll interject. Sorry. I assumed this scene was to show how powerful these new Decepticons were, but then they decided they didn't need it, since having them just kill Starscream in one shot was supposed to show how powerful they all were.
Could have just had, like, the Autobots die and then keep Starscream alive. We could have done that.
Oh, but get this. We would have missed Gears getting blown to pieces by Scourge in that scene.
I'm so sad. I needed that to happen.
My dream now of Geras getting completely destroyed is now no longer reality.
It's also in hundreds of pieces. Eventually I'll stop making bad jokes.
Thomas, you want to continue the second spotlight for Trailbreaker?
All right, Trailbreaker. He is black. Is that why you want to do this, Sean?
So what? Why did you stop there? Like
I did that off.
He doesn't actually.
I looked ahead. And I was like, I'm gonna make this awkward.
So, he's actually doesn't have a secondary color. He's only got one color. It's really weird.
So he's just shade of black. It's just.
Yeah, I think he's might got like his different color eyes or like something on his chest. But yeah, he's mainly completely black.
So I guess when I continue on the read, it's going to say something about him having stealth powers and not just him being able to transform into a camper truck.
I guess we'll find out. Well, you saw him in this episode. What did he use?
All right. He is black and transforms into a camper truck. His quote is, "An Autobot is as good as the fuel in his tank." Oh my God, it's so...
And tank.
His description: Trailbreaker makes light of any situation, no matter how serious. Practical joker and cheerleader, but considers himself a liability to Autobots since he consumes the most fuel. All right, I'll just keep reading. Well, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. Lacks self-esteem and often asks to be left behind. Projects nearly impenetrable invisible fields forward. Sorry. Projects nearly impenetrable invisible force field. Can jam radio transmissions. Very slow. Often mopes about his handicaps, but his bravery and defensive prowess is unquestioned.
I don't get that lack of self-esteem in any of the episodes we've seen him in, like when he was on Cybertron.
Yeah, but then also the last line is his bravery and defense prowess. You need a little bit of self-esteem to do the bravery thing, to kind of get yourself out there? Am I interpreting this wrong?
No, this sounds like they're just mashing up just random characteristics. Nothing seems like it goes together or even goes what Trailbreaker has been shown to be.
So you want to read some fun facts about him too?
So he uses more oil than all the Autobots. Well, I guess they do use oil. I was going to say, yeah. They don't run on Energon. And because he uses more oil, his name was going to be Guzzle. Guzzle ended up being another Autobot much later down the line for the comics, but he never appeared in the original cartoon. He had 3 different colors for his first figure: black, blue, or yellow. Black was, of course, the official one used for the Transformers cartoon and comics. The blue version was sold in the U.S. as Diacron DK3 in 1983 before he was engulfed into the Transformers brand. He had 6 failed attempts at a figure for him that were either turned into another Autobot, despite one looking kind of like him, or canceled altogether.
That's hysterical. How do you fail that much at being a toy?
And then, of course, there's his fate after the movie.
Somehow, he managed to pull together enough fuel to survive the movie, only to succumb to the cosmic rust. He should have received a Binotech body, but it was stolen for Decepticon to use. You would think this would mean he died, but no, he appeared again, magically cured, to then become the combiner known as Skyrain with Wheeljack. Then he went into an alternate reality, and that's when I stopped caring.
Sorry, there was way too much backstory in this alternate reality. Sorry, go ahead.
It sounds like that's when Sean stopped caring. So,
yeah. So, yeah, continue reading.
Later back in the maybe but not quite the same continuity, he joined Optimus's new military, and after a massive battle, he left in the Ark to search for new Energon, and hopefully didn't run into 2 asteroids colliding at the same time.
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of things where I don't ever really care to go to read the stories on this podcast for any of the massive, like, fan-made alternate reality crossover stuff. I mean, there was a Transformers magazine that had a ton of comics in it about Transformers going to different dimensions or other continuities. But after that just most of it is just really kind of all over the place. Sounds like fun. Start reading that wiki, Thomas, on your lunch break, and you might finish by the year 2027.
Never.
Though there is an actual official comic where Beast Wars Megatron goes back in time to the original G1 continuity, and they fight with the original Transformers.
That's actually pretty cool.
Oh, excuse me, that would mean they go forward in time, since they're already stuck in the past.
And suddenly nothing makes sense again.
But that one has never been fan-translated, so we cannot review that on this show just yet. I'm sure Thomas is really sad about that, right?
Not if it's fan-made.
No, it's not fan-made. This is official Japanese comic.
Oh, wow. Well, there's not many comics that, I don't know, are considered canon in the continuity, is there? Was it the IDW or Dreamwave that I've heard you mention before, Sean?
Yeah, they had
Both of those canon?
I don't know. It depends on what you feel like when you wake up that morning, if it's canon or not.
Yeah, that's why, anything that just kind of spawns from the comics, I just kind of tune out.
Well, normally the Japanese are really, really good at making sure everything adheres to the continuity. And they're always writing stuff up to make sure it fills in the plot holes that were on the actual TV show.
So you're saying that they try to make things make sense?
Yes.
I don't think that's really true, because they have a transformer that transforms into a clock or something.
Are you talking about the second Beast Wars with the Tanuki time travel guy?
Yes.
Or no, I'm sorry, I think he only stops time. So basically he's got Elita 1's powers.
All right.
Only it's much more obvious because, he looks like a clock.
Everything makes sense.
But yeah, so that was our extra long episode this time. We hope you've enjoyed our rants and reviews and attempts at comedy.
Coronation Starscream, this is bad comedy. Sorry. As I make one more bad joke.
So, Sam, are you going to sign out as a GoBot name? Or are
No!
You? I don't even remember any of their names. I only know the absurd one that you...
There's Dive Dive, there's Psykill, there's Tux, there's...
Don't
what?
forget
Coptor.
There's Spoons.
Sure.
There's a forklift called Spoons. Get
There's
it?
Dr. Go.
Alita 1.
There's Bug Bite.
Or Leader 1. Jesus.
There's Bad Boy as well.
Wow,
Please
these
stop.
all sound so generic. Not like the awesome names of Transformers, like Cliff Jumper.
At least they tried to be creative, unlike GoBots with their Gobertron. Why do you make me angry?
They are clever. You don't think a GoBot named Good Night, Night spelled like the Knight in Armor?
Yeah, I guess they just didn't blaze any trails like a name like Trailbreaker, so...
Sparky.
Are you looking up just a wiki list now? Alright,
So
GoBots
are we
is
gonna
banned.
sign off?
GoBots is banned from this podcast from now on.
There's just a
GoBots
GoBot
is
named
banned forever.
I'm instituting a 25-episode ban.
GoBots is gonna come back into this conversation at some point. You can't ban it forever.
Alright, I've already gone with the podcast police, and they'll start issuing tickets to anyone that states it during this year.
You know, if you're going to issue tickets, you might need to put cuffs on people as well.
Stop!
Bot name Hands Cuff. All right.
I just feel like
Does he
deleting
turn
this
into-
whole section now.
There's a GoBot named The Puzzler.
Stop! Why are you looking me up?
Well, there's also a podcast announcer named Sean who is signing off.
Sammy Breaker is also signing off.
And Bat Boy Thomas signing off.
I'm leaving.
GoBots podcast.
I'm leaving. You will never hear me at another podcast.
Oh, did we actually even say that we were the Sparkcast at the beginning?
Podcast.
Thanks for YouTube user Transformers at the Moon for hosting every deleted audio segment from every episode of The Transformers. Thanks to tfwiki.net for information used in our Character Spotlight feature.